I don't know if that what will that mean for the players. But George, dropping 2 points here, that's not. I don't. That's a big blow to Arsenal, and there's a bigger blow. We lost Lacazette, and I don't know if people realize how big a loss that is, and I blame Arteta for this, and people will say, well, you of course you'll blame him, Shotta. But Lacazette been playing central striker for game after game after game after game, and it was inevitable that he was going to be pull up, and he's been playing vigorously, hard football to keep us in games.
Yeah, that's a hard one because it is very important to us. But the problem is, we've been that bad in the league that the league is now unimportant. I mean, how have we got to this stage where we should be thinking about leaving our best players out to play in the Europa League plate competition? You know, it's not right, but it is the way it is. And I agree that, you know, he probably had played a bit too much, but Arteta's in a difficult position because if he hadn't started him and we'd not got a result, he would get it in the neck for that as well, you know.
I suppose you're right. I suppose you're right on that. But he's been really overplayed, George. He's played some hard yards.
I mean, he's not when he's overplayed his Granit Xhaka, has he?
I feared for him with that injury when that fellow came in.
He can't get a minute off the pitch, can he, the poor bloke? But I'm not sure. I'm hesitant to be overcritical over selection because I don't know the fitness levels of each player, and they should. But if it turns out he's playing them when they're in the red zone, then that would be wrong. But to assume that they are in the red zone, which a lot of people tend to do, as soon as somebody gets injured, it's easy to point the finger and say, well, they should have been left out. But, you know, good players tend to play all the games. You know, look at Manchester United. Bruno Fernandes has played more minutes than any player in their team because it's so important to them. So when you're important, you're playing. Granit Xhaka has to play. Lacazette, I suppose, now has to play because Aubameyang's suffering with malaria, and he doesn't seem to want to play young Eddie at all. So he's reluctant to play Martinelli through the middle. So, hey, I don't know.
Eddie's last goal was against Fulham, I think, or West Ham. No, the first game against West Ham, he scored off the bench. So that's how long ago he's really scored a goal in the Premier League. First game against West Ham, that's some months ago, and he's been out of favour ever since December. He's got not even. Did he even come on against Slavia Prague? I don't know, George. But anyway, it seems to me that our underperformance in the domestic league is going to be rewarded by promotion, by an automatic qualification to the European Super League, which came out yesterday. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, as ever, my thoughts are guided by the hypocrisy of the rest of the fan base, the media, and everybody else. So when I see a concerted view to talk down this new European Super League by the media, I think to myself, well, why? Why are they so against it? What's so wrong? Some of the things that they come out with, I just don't get. You know, they say, oh, football's about the fans. Yeah, well, they're going to get to watch the better football and better teams. So why would the fans complain about that? And then they'll tell you, oh, well, there's no promotion and relegation. It's not right. There should be. Well, I don't know much about American sports. My sort of knowledge of American sports is limited to the fact that I've watched Field of Dreams 3 times. So that's about the limit to my knowledge. And I watch Space Jam as well, so I'm an expert on basketball too. But
Kevin.
I believe that their franchise, and there's not really relegation in baseball as well. Maybe I don't know.
But franchise system. Most of the American super sports, all of them. There's no league relegation, even Major League Soccer, George. It's a franchise system.
They don't have any trouble getting fans, do they?
Oh no, they
people will stop watching it because there's no relegation. Well, no, they won't, because they don't. Look at America. That's what these people want. That's what these owners want. They want guaranteed top-tier participation. So fans won't start watching because it's proven in America that they're ardent sports fans. I mean, they're fanatical about these sports, some of them. So that argument sort of goes out the window for me. So it's not about fans. And it's certainly not about them stopping watching. So why? The next thing is, well, they'll kick us out of the. We won't be able to play in the domestic leagues. Well, they will if the domestic leagues vote for it. You know, if the Premier League says these 5 clubs can't play because they've entered this breakaway European competition, fine, but that will have an effect. But why should the Premier League do that to itself? It's killing the golden goose. If the Premier League thinks for a moment that it can be as successful as it has been over the last almost 30 years now, without the top 5 teams, they can think again. We've seen this in other sports as well. I don't know if you know anything about it, but the World Darts Championship, the association split. It became a professional world darts body, and it broke away from the amateur one. And there was a big divide saying, "Oh, nobody will watch it. You know, nobody will watch this new one." But the best players went to the new organisation, and all of a sudden, it becomes a dominant force because the best players are playing in it. So if the best players are playing in this European Super League, it will become the dominant force because people want to watch the best football and the best players. And so there's a history of that happening. It happened in rugby. Years ago, it was amateur, and there was an outcry when they went to make it professional. I mean, it seems ridiculous now. Tennis. Professionals weren't allowed to enter tennis tournaments. I mean, how ridiculous would that be if you said to Roger Federer over the last 15 years, you can't play tennis because you're a professional? Things change. We've already changed football beyond our recognition. And if we don't adapt, if Arsenal don't get into this Super League and don't start getting the $3 billion a year or whatever it is that they're going to be promised, there'll be an even bigger divide growing between us and everybody else and Manchester City, because they've won 3 of the last 4 Premier League titles, and they'll become more dominant as the years go by. So if this European League gives such a big chunk of money to the other top teams, other than Manchester City, that their financial doping is watered down, because, you know, if we're spending £1 billion a year rather than 200 million a year, that 100 million extra that City pump in won't be the same. You know, proportionately speaking, it won't be the same. It'll dilute their advantage. So you might get a more competitive Arsenal, a more competitive Spurs, more. So you've got to look at both sides.
Well, here's the other side, George. I hear your side, so you know that there's another side, of course. in my opinion, this is and you know this has been around for quite a bit. The millionaires and billionaires who own the top clubs, and Manchester United is owned by American billionaires. Manchester City is owned by Arab billionaires, by a state actually. Liverpool is owned by a billionaire. I understand that John Henry is one of the big forces behind this. The Arsenal is owned by a billionaire. And AC Milan is owned by a billionaire. You see where I'm going, George? PSG.
Absolutely.
Right.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Right. So what they're attempting to do here is to create a league that they run. So in other words, this league will not be under let's call it the guidance or the administration or the policies of the FA. What I would like to point out, however, is that the FA, UEFA, and FIFA will resist this. And it'll be interesting to see how long they'll resist. I noticed that they put out a joint statement with all the big associations, but statements aren't by themselves. They will have to find some way to counter. I remember when Kerry Packer, you remember Kerry Packer, George?
I do remember Kerry. I tell you what,
and
I was pleased.
How far did that go?
It caused the sport to have more viewers. It brought more money into the game, and the top professionals all got paid more. It wasn't all bad. I got to watch Barry Richards playing Test cricket.
For the first
time. And it was a South African, and I would never have got to watch him if it hadn't been for Kerry Packer.
I know.
So I was eternally grateful to Kerry Packer for giving me Barry Richards, who I believe was the finest batsman I'd ever seen playing Test cricket.
But you know that project folded. Of course, it morphed into Sky and all that, having greater role in cricket, right? The point is that I don't think, let me just suggest to you, George, I don't think there's any guarantee that this will succeed, because the national associations have a vested interest in having a governing role in football. UEFA has a vested interest, and there are some big forces behind them. And just like the ICC had a vested interest in not having Kerry Packer run cricket, I don't think there is a guarantee that this will succeed. It may, go ahead.
I'm not even sure they intend it to succeed.
Yes.
It might just be a bargaining chip. But
it's expensive.
On the other hand, people are outraged that we're giving control of the game to a new consortium of owners, and we're taking it away from the corrupt associations that run the clubs at the moment, that run the game at the moment. FIFA, UEFA, the FA, fucking hell. They're not fit for purpose. I mean, they're hit with scandals right, left and centre. The standard of running our game is a joke. So it wouldn't upset me at all if power was taken from them and given to the clubs more. Because at the end of the day, it's the clubs that are football. It's not the fans. It's the clubs. The fans are part of those clubs. But why shouldn't the clubs have more say in the game? That's the way I look at it. And we might be seeing an end game. It's a bit like a game of chess. Like you said, all these billionaire owners have come in. And I always said that no billionaire wants to lose money. And the current situation now is that billionaire owners are expected to subsidise the clubs, not make a profit, lose money. They're expected to come in and lose money. That can't be right. That can't be sustainable, a sustainable business model. So if this injection of cash means that those clubs are self-financing, that would sort of, for me, put things on a more even keel. And if it gives all the top clubs more money. All right, it might mean that there's a bigger difference between the top clubs